This video is all about the 15 things that you need to know if you're going to live here in Temecula, California. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hey guys, so again, my name is Justin Short. I am a realtor and team leader for the Short Real Estate team here in Temecula, California and Murrieta, California. And like I mentioned, this video is all about the 15 things that you need to know if you're actually going to live here in the city of Temecula. So what prompted this is I've helped a lot of clients relocate here to the area, some from other parts of the state, some from a ton from out of state. We've helped dozens and dozens and dozens of people make that move. And there's a handful of things that I've heard from them that, they've done a lot of research thinking about making this move, really looked into it, watched a lot of my videos, etc. Right? So they felt like they were pretty knowledgeable, but there's still a handful of things that they did not know about the area that they were pretty surprised about once they actually moved here and once they actually lived here. So that's kind of what prompted this video. I want to be able to give you guys some good information that I don't think you're going to find on a lot of other places. But the first thing, if you guys are liking the videos, please do me a favor, please hit like, please hit subscribe. So obviously it helps me, it helps the channel. If you have any real estate questions, I would definitely love to hear from you guys. We have people that reach out to us all the time, so feel free to call, text, or email. Definitely would love to hear from you guys and do whatever we can to help you guys out with the move. But I guess we'll go ahead and get into it. And sometimes I'm going to be looking kind of to the other side of the camera. Just a heads up, I've had some people ask me about that. So I have like a list here, like some bullet points and things I'm trying to hit on the video. So just a FYI, I'm just reading a little bit, just trying to scan. I'm not, somebody asked me if I was like checking my email while I was doing the video. No, I'm just looking at my notes is all. So. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the list. So the first thing that I want to mention to you guys is it's all about the weather. And here in Temecula, it's super, super hot for about 2 months of the year. So the month of August and the month of September, the average temperature is about 91, 92 degrees each year. But there's going to be several days during that period where we're going to have some pretty nasty heat waves. They're going to be well over 100. So probably between 100, 101, up to 100, 405, and probably between 1 to 3 weeks in that period. So just know that we have a pretty desert-like climate, and it gets super, super hot. So you got to know that. Pretty much every house out here has central air conditioning. I don't know maybe anybody that doesn't have central air conditioning. You must have it if you're going to live here. And that comes to a surprise to a lot of people if they're not looking at the different weather that's out there. If they're just looking at on a map, Southern California, hey, it's a little bit more affordable. You guys got to know it's hot. You're going to have a little bit of some extreme heat. But just know the other 10 months of the year, it's a really, really nice place to live. The climate is super mild. We have a very, very, very small winter. We get a couple days of rain, if you can even call it winter. We don't get much of a fall, but a lot of spring-like weather. And I think the climate's awesome. I think it's a great place. But those 2 months a year, you just got to know. You need some AC. Having a pool is really nice, or a community pool or something for sure. So item number 2. So the second thing I want to mention is, and this is probably the most common thing that I hear from people that once they move here, they didn't realize about how much of a military presence there is here in Temecula. So here we're Southern California, right? There's several military bases close by. The largest of which is Camp Pendleton, which is down in Oceanside. A lot of people live here, commute out. It's maybe a 35-40 minute commute, something like that. There's a couple more bases down in San Diego and down in Miramar. There's an Air Force base in Moreno Valley, which is maybe 25 minutes away or so. But it's a pretty huge military community, right? So that's something that people don't necessarily realize when they are looking into the area, but it's something good to know. And I think it's a big pro, right? I think it's great to have that presence for sure. You see a lot of a lot of United States flags. You see a lot of military banners and flags and stuff around town. And I think it's a good thing, but something you should know. All right, and that brings us to point number 3, and this is something that people are always surprised about, is, politically, state of California is known as a pretty liberal state, right? A pretty heavily democratic state, but actually South Riverside County tends to lean a little bit more red. So that's something to know. You know, a lot of times when I'm talking with people that are out of the area, there can be a little bit surprised about that. Is just because you think of California in general, you know, so heavy blue. Something, you know, South Riverside County, you know, definitely tends to lean a little bit more red. So just something to know. Number four, the city of Temecula is super proud of what they've created, and you know how the city has blossomed over the last 20 years, and how much it's changed, and how much infrastructure has come into play. You know how safe the city is, and the school districts, and all that type of stuff. They take a lot of pride in that, and so because of that, they are pretty resistant to change. So they are, you know, they have some restrictions in place. They have some, whether that's building codes or things you can do, or Airbnbs, or you know some of those other, you know, types of things. And they have some restrictions. So just know that the city likes to keep the area pretty squeaky clean, right? They like how well maintained it is. They like its current condition, and that's just, you know, something you should know. They're proud of that, and there's not going to be there can be a little bit more resistant to change than maybe what some other cities can be. All right, so item number 5 is here in Temecula, there is actually a very large horse community. So there are, although most of the city is a ton of suburbs, right, cookie cutter tract homes, there's a really large portion of properties that are large and on some acreage, and people that, you know, have all types of animals, but mainly horses. You know, there's the horse community is definitely the largest. So people that have between a half acre to 1 acre to 3 acres, 5 acres and up. Some people have up to 10 or even up to 20 acres of property, and they've developed that, and they have horse property, they have horse stalls, they have, you know, all the equipment, all that type of stuff. So there is a pretty large horse community that not a lot of people know about. So item number 6, the city of Temecula and the surrounding areas is definitely in the middle of a medical hotspot. So based on our size and population, we really have more hospitals close by than most other areas, right? So here locally, there's four hospitals plus a 5th children's hospital. So it's Rady's Children's Hospital. It's in Murrieta. It's just a couple blocks down the street. And then there's also 2 Kaiser locations as well here close by. So based on like the volume of people close by, there are more hospitals here than most other areas throughout the United States. So item number 7 that I want to mention, so most of the activities in town are set up around children or families. So whether those are things that are put on by the city or even by, you know, the local businesses, is the average age of someone that lives in the city of Temecula is like 36 years old. I think it was the last stat that I saw, right? So that kind of shows you age-wise where that average person is, which means if they're going to have children, they probably have had them by that point, or in the middle of starting their family, right? There are, with the average age, there's many families that are close by, and the city kind of caters to that. So in general, there's a ton of like sports leagues, there's a ton of baseballs and footballs and soccer and all those different types of stuff, but also just like the events put on by the city, and you know, different holiday stuff, and ice skating rinks, and you know, Easter egg hunts, and all those types of stuff. There's just so much, and so much of it is geared towards families. I think people are always surprised by that, and how much really favors the families. So item number 8 that I want to mention is all about the property taxes. And so a lot of people don't realize this, but each neighborhood can have different property taxes here in the city of Temecula. So what happens is when a builder, which most homes in the area are built by, you know, mass builders that came in, bought up a big plot of land, and they built 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 homes at once, like in a big master plan development, right? So when they did that, they're not just building the houses, they're also building infrastructure. So they're putting the streets in, they are putting sidewalks in, they're bringing the utilities out, they're building parks, sometimes they're building schools, etc. All those types of things, right? So they're building infrastructure besides just the actual house, and obviously that costs money. So back in the day, you know, 30 years ago, the builders would just pay that bill as part of their cost to build that community, and they kind of took that on. Probably somewhere in the mid 2000s, you know, they figured out that they didn't necessarily have to pay it themselves, and they can take that cost and pass it off to the homeowner, and so they did that. And they did that through the property taxes. So when you are looking at different properties, different homes can have different property taxes, and those bonds for that infrastructure, they're called special assessments. So each neighborhood's going to be different. different. There's many cases where one home has a low tax rate, and then right across the street that may cost an extra between $3,500 to $4,500 per year. So that's just something to know, and something that your realtor should be pointing out to you and making sure that you're aware of, because that's going to factor into your monthly payment and et cetera. So it's definitely something you want to pay attention to. All right, so item number 9 is that Temecula has really become a tourism hotspot. So in the last data that I have is from 2021, and in the year 2021 we actually had 2.4 million people that came to the city for tourism. So, and that for me, when I first heard that, I guess I heard it probably about a year ago or so, but I was pretty blown away by that stat, because I mean, I've lived here such a long time, right? Compared to 20 years ago, I mean, there's probably 100,000 people that came here, so very, very few, right? And so now for more than 2 million people to come each year, I'm sure it's going to be more than that now, because we're now in 2023. It's probably going to be north of 3 million people as the area continues to grow. But the wineries have grown so much, so many people come here for different events and get-togethers. It's a cool thing, right? And that's really helped the city grow, and the city's reinvested the money, and it's kind of become the snowball effect, which is kind of cool. All right, so item number 10 is the Temecula School District has fantastic ratings. So pretty much across the board, the schools are rated 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I think there's even one that's currently a 10 out of 10. But in general, the school district is rated super, super highly, and it's rated on the national level. And a lot of people will actually move here just for their kids to be able to come here and go to the school district and to be able to live in an affordable area with a great school district. All right, so item number 11 is the city of Temecula is really a bedroom community. So most people that live here in Temecula live here, and they commute out for work. So they commute out to San Diego, LA, Orange County, right? So they commute, they sit in some traffic, and they deal with the drive, or they work remotely, right? People live here because it's a little bit more affordable than other parts of Southern California, and it's a really, really nice area, right? It's newer, and school districts, and safe, and all that type of stuff, right? But here locally, there's not a ton of big business employers, right? So most people do live here, commute out, or especially post-COVID, work remotely. So if you can work remotely, that's going to be a huge plus for you living here in the city. All right, so item number 12 is that Airbnbs are banned here in the city of Temecula. So Airbnbs, VRBO, any type of short-term rentals are actually banned in the city of Temecula within city limits, right? So they are, if you go past where the city lines are, you get out, especially get out to wine country area, it's considered unincorporated Riverside County, so they don't have to follow the same rules that you do if you lived inside the city limits, right? But if you're within the city limits, the city of Temecula has really put a crackdown on Airbnbs. They banned them, right? So the reasons that they've done that is they felt like those Airbnbs lend to people coming in and partying, being loud, maybe disturbing the neighbors, etc., right? I don't think I necessarily agree with that, but they did that a couple years, and that's still the rule. I don't think that they're going to be changing that anytime soon. So I've had a lot of clients, contact me and think about, hey, maybe we want to move to Temecula. We're not quite ready to make the move, but maybe we'll buy a house now, and then we'll rent it out. We'll do an Airbnb or some type of VRBO, for a year, 2 years until we're ready to transition down. And I gotta tell them it's probably not a great idea. You can rent out your house on a traditional rental on a 30-day basis or 6-month basis or a 1-year basis, right? But an Airbnb and vacation rental, it's gonna be a no-go. Item number 13 is just all about the wineries and how much they've grown. So right now there is actually almost 50 wineries here in Temecula. So the wine country has really just grown so much over the last 20 years, right? So many more new wineries. They're getting bigger, they're getting grander. The tasting rooms are getting bigger, the restaurants are getting bigger, they're winning more awards, etc. The wineries are winning more awards, the area is winning awards. It's just become such a huge draw and such a big part of the area. And that's probably why there's so much tourism, right, that we saw in one of the other stats there. Okay, and then item number 14 that I wanted to mention is that we have a casino right here in Temecula. So Pechanga Casino is right here in South Temecula, and a lot of people when they come into town, they do not realize that. So that's always something that kind of surprises me because they're such a big casino. So one, just size-wise, they've done so many additions over the last 10, 15 years. They've added onto their hotel, they've added onto their parking structure. They're such a huge presence here in town. So they sponsor all types of events, with the city and just around town. And then they're a big sponsor to a lot of the local sports teams in Southern California. So I know they're a big sponsor for the Lakers. I think they're a big sponsor for the Dodgers. I think they're a big sponsor for, I think it's the Angels or all types of sports teams. They're out here. So they spend a bunch of money for advertising, etc. And they're such a big presence. I'm always just kind of surprised people don't know that they're here before they come. And then the last thing that I want to mention in item 15 is just about the parks. So there are now over 52 parks here in the city of Temecula. So the reason that there are so many is that the city makes the builders, so when a builder comes in to build like a tract home, right, they have mandates about for every X amount of houses that they build, they also have to build a park. So like my community, we moved actually into a new community over the last year, right? And in that community, they built like 3 different parks that are part of the community. So I think that's a huge plus. It kind of helps keep the area green, right? It gives area for the kids to play. Kind of one of my other points that I had mentioned, right? So many of the things are geared towards families and kids, right? All those parks would kind of be another indicator of that. And that's just something to know. So that's my list. Those are the 15 things. I hope those are informative for you guys. I think those are some things that most people do not know unless you actually live here. And some people actually have to live here for a few years to figure some of those out. So hopefully it's some good information for you guys. But if you have any questions, again, you guys can feel free to reach out to me anytime. You can call, text, or email. Feel free to hit like, hit subscribe, and hopefully talk to you soon. Thanks.